So after ripping apart his not-so-directorial debut with Piranha 2: The Spawning, we can finally talk about the true directorial debuts of James Cameron. What's up, everyone? We're continuing the James Cameron Director's Review Series leading up to Way of the Water. If this is your first time here, all my social media links are in the description box down below. To the Facebook, all the way up to my serialized. If you would like to send any money to my Cash App, it's down in the description box below. And if you would like to send anything from my Amazon wish list, that's down there too. But the reason why I'm so enthusiastic right now is because we're going to be talking about a movie that is in my top 100 favorite movies of all time and one of my favorite sci-fi and favorite horror movies of all time, The Terminator. Released in 1984, this was the true directorial debut and his truly first great film. This is directed by James Cameron, written by him, of course. This stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, and Michael Biehn. I have reviewed this movie before when in summer of 2016 when I was on a big review splurge back in the summer where I was just reviewing whatever I want. I have since grown, I have since evolved over the years, and I just feel like I need to re-review this movie, especially give it the proper review I think it deserves. So my reviews of Terminator 1 and 2 from 2016 are still going to be up, but this is going to be my revisited review, and I'm going to have a lot more to say about it. The full premise is you have a cyborg assassin by the name of the Terminator in the year 1984. He is disguised as a human and he travels from 2029 to 1984 to kill Sarah Connor, who divulges the coming of Skynet, an artificial intelligence system that will spark a nuclear holocaust. She's targeted because Skynet knows an unborn son will lead the fight against them. And with the virtually unstoppable Terminator in hot pursuit, she and Kyle Reese, a Terminator who sent to protect her, attempt to escape, but they also fall in love. He devised this premise of the film after getting very sick and had a fever dream and during the experience of Piranha 2: The Spawning. And so he basically was having nightmares about this. A metallic torso holding kitchen knives from an explosion, and it was also inspired by Halloween. He returned to his hometown at the time, stayed at the home of a sci-fi writer, and in that case, the initial outline and the concept of the Terminator was born. It was taking influences from The Outer Limits and The Driver and Mad Max 2. Then he took the movie to different studios, and then he took it to Pacific Wrestling and Orion. We now have one of the most greatest films we've ever had in film. And this movie, Orion, they were scared. They were scared for this movie because they didn't think this movie was gonna be all that great. And then such things happened with a leap of faith. This movie topped the US box office in 2 weeks, grossing $78.3 million against its small $64 million budget. This launched James Cameron's career and it solidified Arnold Schwarzenegger's status as a lead guy. I am excited to finally give my revisited thoughts as to why this is in my top 100 favorites and why I love this amazing horror sci-fi masterpiece. One of the very few movies to have a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. First off, in the positives, you gotta give credit to James Cameron. No matter what you think of him nowadays with so many Avatar sequels he's about to do, the man has a vision. He had his say, he knew what he wanted, he got what he wanted. His writing of the simple premise about a cyborg killer coming down to kill this innocent woman and another hero from somewhere else coming to protect her. You gotta give credit to James Cameron for that. That is the work of a true filmmaker. He definitely had his say. He definitely knew exactly what he wanted to go. And I just appreciate the fact that this is a very simple premise. It doesn't get overly complicated. It's very well told, and it's also very well directed. There was a lot of pressure on him because if this didn't work, he would not do another movie again. He made this work. It made a lot of great interest. The direction is very strong, very well written screenplay with some great lines, like "I'll be back," of course. That's an amazing line from Arnold Schwarzenegger. Whenever you watch The Terminator, what do you think of the Terminator line? Brilliant concept. It's a great genre of adrenaline action and terrifying horror, which this movie, a lot of people forget that this is a horror movie. There is some horror in here. And the sci-fi is well thought out. So those are an interesting blend. Smaller budget compared to what we know from James Cameron nowadays, but he makes great use of that budget. And it's a great start from the director. And this movie holds up very well because of its concept and the highly adrenaline sequences, and it just goes for it. The action in this movie is well shot. There's not a lot of explosions and stuff. This is how you do action the right way, and it's really well done. And I love the action in this movie. I think the action is great. Even when I first saw this on AMC as a younger kid, back in 2008 to 2009, I was enthralled at how much they were able to get away with because this is a smaller budget. And it shows that you don't have to have 300 million to make a great sci-fi crazy genre blend.
Kick-ass.
You take whatever you got. And James Cameron, he understood that assignment and he knew that assignment. And that's why this movie works in its favor. Also, we have to talk about, of course, the practical effects. This movie has some great special effects. And it holds up. The miniature effects holds up. There's not a single thing that I feel is dated. The miniatures and the stop motion and the makeup created by the late Stan Winston and Gene Warren Jr., they do a very great job with their effects. They know exactly what to do when it comes to these effects. These effects are some of the best effects in the practical movie ever. We all love to praise The Thing, but this has some great practical effects. There is some practical effects that doesn't age very well, but even with that, I still think the practical effects for what they're able to do are really well done. You feels like a real location, of course. I do love that, of course. There were some suggestions from stereo interference from Orion while he was making this movie. You put a dog android for Reese, which he didn't want to do, but he did agree to straighten the love interest story out, and I will get to the love story. But Winston, he had a team of 7 artists to work for 6 months to create a puppet, and the sequences 2029 and the stop motion effects are phenomenal. You gotta give it up to these guys. There's some finishing shots that were needed, and some of those shots include Sarah Connor's apartment, Reese being zipped into a body bag, and the head being crushed to a press. They did that perfectly. I love the effects in this movie. Great use of when you don't need CGI. Just like with John Carpenter's The Thing, or any movie from the 80s and the 70s, even the early 90s and early 2000s, where you don't need a lot of CGI. You have to use your hands, use your miniatures. And I love this movie for that. I love that approach. Speaking of the story being simple, the love story. This could easily come off as cheesy and cliche as fuck. But I like the love story of protecting Sarah Connor's story. I think it's magnificent. I think it's beautiful. And it doesn't go the usual routes. Yes, he's protecting her. Yes, he falls for her. And yes, there is a sex scene with those two. But it's not gratuitous. It's not toxic. And it's damn sure not egregious. It's done in the most capable hands that you could do it with. And so the cinematography, this movie is very well shot. There's some great daytime shots in the daytime, some great nighttime shots. One of my favorite shots as far as cinematography, one of my favorite scenes that's well shot, is when the Terminator, he is looking through in the mirror and he's trying to fix his eye, but you do have the eye reveal. It's very scary, but it's also very intense looking, and just the way it's played out, even with the music and with the performance of its main actor, which I'm gonna get to, you definitely feel that. And I definitely really enjoy a lot of what that had to offer. You very well edited too. All the technical effects, perfect. Not a single flaw with that. But you gotta give it up to the two main things besides direction and the story. We gotta talk about that score, because Brad Fiedel, he's retired now, but he used synthesizer, and the musical score here is very well done. It feels like a heartbeat and a mechanical man, and I love the way the theme is used. It's so classic, it's beautiful, it's dark, it's intense, it's scary, but it's also very futuristic. It's very done completely on synthesizer, and I love that. And he and James Cameron have a very great relationship together working with this. The music in here is amazing. I love the music in this movie. One of my favorite movie soundtracks, especially in sci-fi and cinema. You're not gonna find another theme like this ever. This is one of my favorite movie themes, is the Terminator theme, and it definitely excels in using its theme very well. But I cannot go without talking about the acting in this movie. The acting is strong in this movie. You got Arnold Schwarzenegger. Let's talk about the man himself. This solidified him as the leading man role. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's not the greatest actor out there, but for me, he's one of my favorite action stars out there. He's charismatic. Even in his worst day, he is very charismatic. He's awesome. He does a phenomenal job in this role that doesn't have a lot of dialogue. He was very hesitant to take the part, of course, after Conan the Barbarian, but he thought it was going to destroy his career, but little did he know, it just solidified him as a leading man. And he's fantastic in here. There's not a lot of casting in here. He and James Cameron has a very nice relationship, and he made a hell of a Terminator. He doesn't have a lot of lines except "I'll be back," but you could tell even through his facial expressions alone, this was him in his prime, and he just knocked it out of the park. But what about the other two actors? Let's talk about those guys. Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor. Now, initially they wanted O.J. Simpson for this movie, but the studio turned it down. At the time, they didn't think he would be believable as a killer. Even James Cameron did. When it comes to Kyle Reese, a lot of actors were met. You had people like Sting, Christopher Reeve, Mel Gibson, Matt Dillon, Kurt Russell, Treat Williams, Scott Glenn, Michael O'Keefe, Bruce Springsteen, Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh my God.
So many actors could have taken this, but they landed on the perfect actor. He drew influences from Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and Robert Redford for this, and that is Michael Biehn. Michael Biehn is fantastic in this movie. He is fantastic. He's a badass. He's likable. I like the human connection. Very little time to fall in love, and he gets the character down very well. And I love the performance of Michael Biehn in this movie. Sarah Connor, of course. Linda Hamilton. Perfect casting. You're not going to find anyone better than her. Even though I liked Lena Headey in the TV series Sarah Connor Chronicles, and I didn't have a problem with Emilia Clarke in Genesis, even though that's a frustrating movie that I can enjoy, I think Linda Hamilton is a great choice for this. She finished doing Children of the Corn for this. Now, they wanted Leah Thompson, Rosanna Arquette, and Jennifer Jason Leigh, Lisa Langlois, Melissa Sue Anderson, and Jessica Harper for this, but Cameron turned to her for this. And she is great in this movie. She is viable, she's charismatic. She's just a girl who has a normal day job, but she gets caught up in the middle of this. And I love this character. She is soon to be the mother of the future resistance of John Connor. And I gotta say, just like with Michael Biehn, she's great. They have a great chemistry together. And that's the number one thing when you have a love story in this type of movie like this. Is the love story has to have great chemistry between two actors. You can have a great idea on paper, you can direct it very well, but if you ain't got the casting for that, your love story will just crumble because of that. Other actors here, you got the late Paul Winfield as Ed Traxier, a lieutenant. You got Lance Henriksen in this movie, of course. Bill Paxton as a small cameo, and Brian Thompson, who we will then eventually know as Shao Kahn and in Cobra. The acting in this movie is strong. Acting in this movie is phenomenal. I love the acting in this movie. I don't really have any negatives to say, except there is some dated practical effects that doesn't hold up, but that's just a small little nitpick to stop me from praising how much I love this movie. And I like the themes of dealing with masculinity and artificial intelligence and rebellion. The robots become self-aware, reject human authority, and determine that the human race needs to be destroyed. That is a very scary idea, but I think in concept it works very well. So overall, I have nothing else more to say about this movie. The Terminator is one of my favorite films ever made. It's a great film. Great concept with strong direction, a well-written screenplay, great character development, phenomenal score. Schwarzenegger is great as the Terminator. I love the two performances. The love story works. This is a prime example of great film cinema done to its excellence, and I love it. And there's some great atmosphere and very violent that doesn't hold back and is never unapologetic for it. So with that being said, you know the grade this is gonna get. I'm not finna sugarcoat it. It's down there in the words as I'm talking about this. This is Spider-Verse worthy. If you have not seen this, get on it. It's amazing. Well, that's gonna do it for the video that you just watched. I will have my channel here, so you would like to see anything here, click the channel icon, subscribe for more. I will also leave a video and maybe a playlist here, so in case you want to see what I'm about. As always, stay Epictasticness, join the Epictasticness, and you guys keep it cool.